All right, I am here to talk about the Optimum Performance Training Model by NASM. First off, my key point that I want to address, the first one, injury prevention. So the OPT model will prevent injuries. As suggested by the essentials of sports performance training, you're going to start off by using assessments that measure performance and posture within your athlete or your client. A study titled Isokinetic Strength Training Program for Muscular Imbalances in Professional Soccer Players tells us that a large quantity of injuries are caused from muscle imbalances and deficits. So early on, using these assessments, we are able to identify muscle imbalances and correct them early on to prevent further injuries or complications. All of the aspects done in the OPT model are going to be done in progressions where the simplest form of the exercises is done in phase one, which is the stabilization phase. So any technical errors within that phase can be addressed and corrected before moving on to more complicated exercises. The next thing is that the OPT model is easy to follow and implement if you are a coach or a personal trainer. There are resources for all of the phases, all of the aspects. So at the very beginning, we're given assessments to see where our performance levels are, what the needs are of our client. We have exercises for each aspect, each phase, and we have reps and sets for each phase as well. And those are all provided by the Essentials of Sports Performance Training. Obviously, you're going to have to adjust things and make it more specific to your client or athlete, but it's pretty easy to fill in the gaps because there's so much provided with us. The last thing here is that it will work. It's all backed by research. Each phase starts off in the stabilization phase, which is a good thing. That's going to allow us to have proper posture and to perform exercises within our program correctly to get the best results. De Blazer in 2019 tells us that core stability will prevent injury and allow us to perform exercises correctly. So at the beginning of each aspect, we have that stability phase that will promote core stability and allow us to prevent injuries and perform these things correctly. Vila Cha tells us that the stabilization phase of plyometrics, so the exercises provided in the stabilization phase, optimize explosive output. So that means that in the simplest phase of our exercises, the stabilization phase, we get results from those. So imagine what's going to happen as you move up the ladder and go through the strength phase and the power phase. A systematic review in 2019 tells us that balance training will increase speed, strength, agility, fatigue resistance, and it will decrease injury. So that is one aspect within the OPT model, addressing all of those issues that could be within a client. Imagine what all of the aspects put together would do for us. Some arguments against the OPT model are that non-athletes maybe don't need a power phase or other phases involved. So a simple solution to that would be cut that phase out. Maybe you stop at the strength phase or the endurance phase, whichever suits you best if you are not an athlete looking for power. The last thing is that some people think that there's too much incorporation of stabilization. Mona Jati in 2019 claims that unstable exercises engage core and improve balance, which are going to cut back on injury. So if we're able to add these things in, we're basically killing two birds with one stone throughout our resistance exercises and potentially other things. So to wrap it all up, the OPT model is going to allow us to prevent injury within our athletes. It is going to be easy to implement and use if you're a coach or a trainer. And lastly, it is going to give us positive results.